A lot of sales training out there focuses on what the prospect needs to feel, what the prospect needs to believe, and what the prospect needs to do. But very little of it, mine included, is about you as the sales rep and what you need to believe and what you need to know for any of this shit to land. You see, a lot of you are not making the money that you want to make and losing sales because of not saying the right things. You're likely saying the right words, but they don't have weight behind them. The reason they don't have weight is A, you're not congruent, but B, you don't have the right beliefs yourself, which kind of goes hand in hand with being congruent and actually believing the shit that you need to believe. So that's exactly what we're gonna cover today. We're gonna go through the 8 beliefs that you as a closer need to have to be able to transfer it to the prospect. And we're gonna talk about the biggest things that most closers, or almost every closer that I've worked with personally, gets wrong as a result of not having these 8 beliefs embedded. So let's dive in. Before we do that, if you're wondering who I am, my name's Nick. I've closed over $3 million. I've helped close to 100 reps do the exact same thing. Like Chris here, who went from 3K a month to 30K a month, or we got Alex here, who hit 10.6K a month as a setter. We got Colton here, hit his first 10K month at 21 years old. I can fucking go on. Point is, I do this shit. If you want to be one of them, there's gonna be a link down below to work with me one-on-one. If you want to be one of the 5 additional clients that I take on every single month, hit the link below, apply. You're gonna talk directly with me. If not, let's dive into the video. So the first one isn't exactly like a belief you need to have, but more so an understanding of how decisions are formed in what's called the decision-making cascade. Without understanding this, you end up handling the wrong thing. So I'll tell you what I mean. So at a high level, experiences form beliefs, which form identities, and then the identities are what shape the decision-making process. If we don't shape the decision-making process, then it fucks the sale at the end. Now, the problem here, a lot of you try to attack the decision before all the other shit that's leading up to it. That's like a house having a shitty foundation and then it falls, and then you think the reason that it fell is because of the roof. The whole time, it was down here is the reason it fell, not up here, right? So in order to attack this, we need to first go for the experience, right? So let me break it down this way. Like if someone tells you at the end of the call that they need to think about it because that's just how they make decisions, or they need to talk to their partner because that's just how they make decisions and how they make decisions together. The thing is, an experience is what formed this belief for them to believe that a smart person thinks about decisions before making them. A good spouse talks to their partner before making a decision. And so early on in the conversation, that's what we need to be attacking, not the fact that they need to think about it at the end. The fact they need to think about it is simply a symptom of the experience, which has formed a belief, which formed this identity. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is this shit making sense? And so in the discovery, we need to find out what they've done towards solving XYZ problem, and then we're going to get the experience that is ultimately going to lead to the objection. So an example of that, someone who says they need to think about it, they'll probably say some shit like, oh yeah, I've just been like doing a bunch of research, or yeah, I've been analyzing different options. They'll say some shit like that, right? And you'll ask them, okay, well, what's prevented you from picking one and going? Oh, I'm the type of person who likes to have all my ducks in a row before moving forward, before making a decision. I want to make sure the decision that I make is the right one. Boom. Now you know how they make decisions. Now you know the flaw in their decision making that you can attack, right? After we get the experience, right? We understand the belief that's formed from it, the identity, which ultimately forms the decision making process. So long story short, a lot of you don't understand this shit though. You just hear an objection, you try to objection handle, right? You try to handle the surface level thing, and the reason that you're not able to do it successfully is because you haven't had the right conversations prior, right? So I made this as number 1 because this is one of the most important things. So you have to understand this decision-making cascade. But let's keep going. And something you'll see is that all 7 now are going to build off of that decision-making cascade. They're all going to kind of snowball off of that, right? So number 2 is the person who joined the call is not going to be the person who buys. And what I mean by that, again, similar to what I said in number 1, is this person who joined the call has a history of making decisions poorly when it comes to the certain thing that you sell. And so that isn't going to be the person who buys. So in the think about it objection I gave, the person who's coming on the call and they've been doing a bunch of research and they've been analyzing is not going to be the person who's going to buy. This lack of action is not serving them. And it's protected in an identity of, well, that's what smart people do. Well, that's what good spouses do. And so that's what you need to unravel and you need to break down. But if you have the core understanding that the person who joined the call is not going to be the person who buys, without even having a lot of the other tactical shit, you have now the fundamental understanding that I'm going to need to change how this person thinks, how this person makes decisions to some degree, because they wouldn't fucking be here. This is really important because with this understanding now, if you're getting to the end of the call and you know that there hasn't been any type of belief that's been shifted, there hasn't been any type of identity that's been framed on this person, and then you try to ask for the sale, there is more likely than not going to be an objection at the end. And so for me, this way of thinking helps me do is always looking for an area to challenge. And I'm not saying challenge them off the bat and just start berating them for their life decisions. But if I know that the person in front of me is not going to be the person who buys, then I know that there's going to be something about the person in front of me that is going to have to change. And if nothing is changed by the end of the call, we're going to stay in that saddle until something does. Number 3 is your words mean nothing. Their words mean everything. You see, the problem with a lot of you fuckers is that you are trying to tell your way into a sale. You're trying to tell them their pain. You are trying to show how smart you are and that you understand the product or the service so well that you are not letting them speak. You're not letting them get the pain out and tell it to you. And so the pain ends up being shit that you have put on them and not things that they have said. They don't give a fuck what you say. The reason they're going to move forward, the reason they're going to buy is because of the things that you've been able to get them to say, the things you've been able to get them to uncover. This is why you're aimlessly throwing analogies out. You're doing all this mental jujitsu in the fucking discovery, but then at the end of the call, they still have objections. They still have reasons to not move forward. It's because these were your words. Someone saying that they've had this problem that they haven't taken action to solving in the last 5 years, and me asking what has that cost you, and they tell me it's costed me, or cost whatever, time with my family, time to build myself. They are saying this shit versus you saying, well, look at how much time that's cost you with your family. Look at how much time that's cost you for yourself. It's like, yeah, you're right. Sounds good. And then you move on. They need to say it. So anytime you are about to make a statement on a call, I want you to think, how can I turn this statement into a question to get them to make the statement? So rather than me telling them what it's cost them, how can I get them to tell me what it's costed themselves? The more they speak, the more they say these things, their pain ultimately, the more they are internalizing it and the more they are persuading themselves, the more you say it, the more you're dissuading them and the more it feels like that you are trying to do something to them. It feels like you were trying to get something out of them by manufacturing and creating this pain. Number 4, your prospect either hasn't done anything or they haven't done enough. This is crucial to understand, that the reason they are there is 100% because of them. If you think on your calls that, wow, this person's actually done enough, this person's actually done a decent amount to getting to their goals, it's gonna be really fucking hard to close that person because it's gonna be really hard to challenge that person if you believe what they've done is enough. Everything is their fault. Their life is their responsibility, and it is their fault that they are in this place and that they have this problem that they have not solved. I don't give a fuck what they've done. I don't care how many courses they've been through. I don't care how many mentors they've had. I don't care what they've done. If they are in this position, it is because of them. I have a client who sells career coaching, and some of these people will come on and they'll be like, yeah, man, this was before he had this understanding, right? They'd be like, yeah, man, I just got laid off. Like, I don't know what happened. I just got laid off and now I need to look for a new job. Now, before this particular client had the understanding that everything is their fault, to him, that's a valid reason as to why they need career coaching. It's a valid reason as to why they haven't taken action. They just got let go all of a sudden. But once he started to really have this belief, he would have the right conversations with these people and understand that, yes, they may have just gotten laid off, but the writing has been on the wall for 6 months, for a year, or maybe they've been unhappy in that role for 6 months, a year, 2 years. So there still was reason for them to be able to act and move forward on something sooner. The reason they're there isn't just because life played them or dealt them a bad hand. It's because they were not proactive enough in solving their fucking problem. I cannot stress this enough. Everything is the prospect's fault. And another way to look at this is, if it's their fault, if they got themselves into that problem, then it's also their responsibility to solve it. They're not helpless, right? I'll give you another analogy here. Like, if an overweight person believes that the reason they're fat is because they have poor genetics, is because they have a really bad metabolism, it's because their fucking dad used to yell at them when they were 8 and then they'd run under the bed and get a Twinkie or whatever, right? I got that one from Hormozy. But if this is why they believed that they are fat, these aren't things you can change. You can't change how you grew up, right? You can't change that shit. I mean, you could kind of change your metabolism, but not fully, right? You can't change your genetics. You can't change any of these things. And these are all external reasons. And so if that's why you believe you're fat, well, then the external has to change in order for you to be able to change. But if you believe I am fat because I eat like a fat fuck, because I don't work out, because I don't do this, that, and the third, that's why I'm fucking big, well, then those are things that you can change, right? And so these are things that you have to believe even for yourself, that everything is the prospect's fault. Everything's your fucking fault. The reason that you're sitting here right now, not making the money that you want to make and watching a YouTube video and hoping that enough YouTube videos can make up the skill set gap that you don't have is the reason that you're broke. It's the reason. It's the reason you're not making the money that you want to make. It's the reason you haven't hit 30K a month yet. It's because of you, not because you've been on bad offers, not because you had a bad sales manager, not because of any of the other external shit, but because of you. Once you believe it for yourself, you believe it for the prospect too. Okay, the last example I'm gonna give of this particular one, because it's so important, is when I sold to doctors, okay? They thought that the reason that they're drowning in charts and the reason that they have no life and all this shit is because of the system. You can't change the fucking system. The reason that they were drowning in charts is because they had no boundaries in the rooms with the patients, because they moved slow, because they had perfectionism when it came to the notes. That is why they were not having life. That's why they were constantly behind. These are things that they can change, but they wanted so bad to believe that the reason they were there was because of something outside of their control. I wouldn't accept that because I had this core understanding. It is all your fault. Let's keep going. Number 5 is objections are not logical. They are protecting their identity. Guys, the logical, obvious fucking decision that they need to make is to move forward, right? Obviously, they have these problems. Obviously, you solve these problems, but then they still want to think about it. They still want to pray on it. They still want to talk to their spouse because objections aren't logical, right? Again, we'll take you for example. You're in the space right now. You're probably making less than 20 grand a month. And the logical thing to do is to go invest into more high level training so that you can have the skill set to be able to last on a good offer and make the money that you want to make. Like, that's fucking obvious. It's logic. But you're sitting here and maybe you invested into like a get into high ticket sales biz op, and now you're telling yourself, well, I've already invested. It makes no logical sense, but this is what you're telling yourself. Or maybe you're telling yourself, I'll invest into myself when I'm making X amount per month. The reason you're not is because you haven't fucking invested. Or maybe you're a setter, oh, I'll invest into myself when I'm a closer. Or you see how this shit makes no sense, okay? They're not logical. Same objections that you give yourself, that prospects give themselves, are not logical. So they can't be overcome. Well, let me not say can't, but it's going to take a lot more than just logic to overcome them. But the problem is a lot of you, and it sounds so like straightforward, but a lot of you hear an objection and then you instantly try to handle it logically. Oh, I need to think about it. What do you need to think about? That's a lot of money. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's a lot of money, but like compared to the results that you're going to get, it's like no shit compared to the results you're going to get. It's not a lot of money, but you need to earn that. You need to earn emotional vulnerability. You fuckers are going for it way too quick, and it's because you don't understand objections. They protect the identity. And what I mean by protecting the identity is if they admit that they don't need to do this thing that's obviously wasting time and putting time between the decision that they know they need to make. If they admit that that way of thinking is wrong, well, then ultimately you're attacking their identity. They're admitting that they're wrong, that they're stupid. So let me give you 2 objections here that I kind of gave the examples earlier on, right? So the first one is think about it. If this person believes that thinking through decisions and sitting there and fucking meditating and counting your chakras and thinking long and hard before making any decision, if they believe that is how smart people make decisions, and then you're trying to tell them, well, no, that's wrong. You need to just fucking do it because you're fucking broke and I know we're going to help you. If you tell them that way, it's not going to land because now it feels like you're attacking my identity and my lens of the world. Right? So 2 things need to happen. One is you need to precede earlier in the conversation that this way of thinking is not serving them, so you have enough leverage to handle it here. And 2, you need to normalize the objection and make this person emotionally safe before you start attacking, right? Before you start throwing all these logical arguments that they're just going to say you're right, but I still need to think about it. If you're not preceding it earlier in the conversation and then during the actual objection time, if you're not normalizing it and you're making them seem to be this like crazy, unreasonable person, you're only getting further and further away from the sale. So I'll say it one more time. Objections are not logical. They are identity protecting. Anytime you hear someone give you an objection, they're protecting their identity. I said I'd give you 2 examples. The first one was think about it. The second one was a spouse objection. Someone believes that A responsible spouse in a healthy marriage operates off of partnership or the people talking about every single decision that they're going to make. And then you're trying to persuade them to make a decision without their spouse. How are they going to see themselves? As a bad spouse, you need to precede this shit earlier on, right? You need to understand how these problems are affecting their spouse, how their spouse feels about them getting the support to solving it. And so now at the end, this is now more so you framing it as this is what you need to do to be a good spouse, not to go against your spouse. You see what I'm saying here? Are y'all following? Let's keep going. Number 6 is that beliefs are filters, not thoughts. What I mean by that, similar to what I just said in the one before, again, all this shit is compounding and piling on top of each other, right? Beliefs are filters, meaning when you get a piece of information, your belief kind of decodes it and then gives it to you as information ultimately. And so it's kind of like a security guard at the fucking front of someone's brain that you need to be able to get past if you want to be able to influence them. This is the guard of what someone accepts or rejects, what feels dangerous versus reasonable, and what actions feel justified versus irresponsible. It's just a lens, it's just a list of filters, right? And remember what I said at number 1, beliefs come from experiences. So if you want to influence somebody, you have to be able to understand the experiences that have shaped this belief so that you can help them see this experience in a different light. Because if they can see the experience in a different light, then we can start to adapt how they see the belief, right? We can start to change how they see that belief into a belief that actually helps them, right? Into a belief that is in alignment with the decision of moving forward, which is ultimately the decision of them getting to what they want to get to, not keeping them safe, right? Beliefs are there to keep them safe. It's a filter. Remember what I said. Information someone accepts or rejects on autopilot, right? What feels dangerous versus reasonable, and what feels justified versus irresponsible. So they'll tell you that, oh, well, just investing $10,000 into a program without doing research, that's irresponsible. That's why I've been doing research, why I haven't done anything. They'll tell you that earlier. Now you can change that. You can change how they see it. You could change the lens that they see it through, right? If I have red lenses here and I'm seeing the world through in red, everything's fucking red to me. Until someone comes to me and they're like, dog, your fucking glasses are red. Take them shits off and put these on. And then I'm gonna see clearly, right? Your prospects are blinded by their beliefs and that's why they're not seeing clearly. But without this core belief, without this core understanding, you're sitting here and attacking their belief system rather than helping them rewire it. Number 7 is that people value identity consistency over outcome improvement. Meaning, they would rather be consistent with the person that they see themselves as opposed to getting the outcomes that they want. Now, this is good news and bad news. The good news is that the brain prioritizes consistency, which means if you can embed a belief into them early enough into the call and they take that belief and own it as theirs, then they're going to want to be consistent with the belief, consistent with the frame, which helps you when it comes to the end of the call, helping them make the decision to move forward, right? Because it's a consistent decision. That's why it's good. The bad news, though, is if you don't do what I just said, then they're still in their old identity. And remember, the brain values identity consistency over outcome. And so if they are still in that same identity that they came into the call with, and we haven't done much to be able to shift it, and they actually own it, well, they're going to make decisions through that lens, and they're going to fight like hell to stay consistent with the identity that they already have, because we didn't give them a new one. We didn't help give them a new one. So an example of this, right, is like, let's say I'm selling to someone who's like very clearly fearful, and they tell me the reason they haven't moved forward is because of fear, and you could just like smell the fear off of them, right? When I'm at the part of the call where I'm identity framing them, I'm going to ask them, okay, let's say 6 months from now, XYZ, we could call him to the 2.0 version of you. What kinds of characteristics do you think that man has? What kind of traits? Right? They're going to list off all the good things. Right? Let's say we're selling BizOp. We could call this the entrepreneurial version of yourself. Right? I was selling coaching to doctors, like life coaching. So I would just say Dr. X 2.0, right? What characteristics or traits do they have? And then they're going to tell you, like, okay, got you. And like, what characteristics or beliefs or traits do you think maybe we would need to let go of that are not serving you the best right now? And then they're just going to fucking tell you the fear, right? The relationship with time and saying I don't have time. They're literally going to fucking tell you all the things that they need to let go of in addition to all the things that they need to step into. And so now at the end, when you drop the price point on their head top and then they try to give you a money objection, we can remind them of the identity that they're stepping into and the one that they're getting away from. And they're going to want to be consistent with that shit. You feel what I'm saying? Like, yo, when I first started working out, right? I remember I first started getting like a couple compliments, right? And people would be like, yo, fucking arms are hugging the sleeves, or like, you look bigger. what did that do? That encouraged me to continue getting my ass in the gym and seeing myself as this person who is fit, who works out, who gets these types of compliments. And so I fucking continue to work out. This is why identity frames are so powerful. Another way that I'll identity frame this to be able to get it through, right? And like, let's say I'm trying to pre-handle a partner objection, right? After getting the context of the problem around the partner, in other words, like if you're selling biz op and they want to spend more time with the family, like, okay, what kinds of things are you not able to do with your spouse as a result, right? After getting that context and then understanding if the spouse is supportive, then I'd be like, oh, fuck, sounds like you have a good one, You'd be surprised how many, I don't want to say hard-headed, but it's just like these people who know they need to change, who know they need to do better for themselves, for their family. But then when it's time to actually make the tough decision, they want to put it off on their spouse. I'm glad that's not the conversation we're having. But anyway, when you said boom and then move on, why? They're going to want to be consistent with that. You just slapped an identity on them, identity frame, and they want to be consistent with the frame that you just put on them. Right? They want to move like a good spouse who doesn't deflect responsibility onto their partner. Right? Let's keep going. The last one, and this is going to sound a little like esoteric, right? Don't get me wrong. We love money. We want to get paid. At the same time, that cannot be the absolute forefront of your brain. So number 8 is going to be sales is something that we do for people, not to people. This one's massive because if you believe that this is something that you're doing to somebody, right? Like you're doing it to them, it's a very manipulative way of thinking, and that's going to come off in your communication. It's going to come off in just how you show up. You're just overall going to be a fucking weirdo if you believe you're doing it to them. So like, let's say like a lot of the shit that I just said in this video, like I gave a lot of actionable shit that you can take to your calls, like the identity frame stuff. I'm saying it from a place of like, I genuinely don't give a fuck whether or not they buy. Like I would love if they did, but I genuinely, I could care less if they buy or not. And so I could say some of this shit that place, right? And people can feel that. But if you're coming so horny, so eager for the sale, and then you try to use the exact same words I just used, you don't have the energy that I have. It's just not gonna land, right? That's why I said you need context before asking something like let's talk about the 2.0 version of yourself. Because if you haven't had frame and authority the whole call, and then you try to say something like that, you just sound retarded, right? It sounds like you're trying to do something to them. Have you ever had a prospect say, I know what you're doing to me, right? When you ask certain questions or use certain tonality, or you're trying to objection, I know you're just trying to get the sale, I know what you're doing to me. Or have you ever been in an interaction with the salesperson and said something like that? Oh, I'm in sales too, like I know what you're trying to do to me. All of these things are a reflection of how you view sales. And if you view sales as something that you do to somebody, good luck. Good luck getting people over the line consistently and actually feeling good about it. It's something you're doing for them. We're shifting beliefs for them. We're helping them make tough decisions for them. Right? Something that I always internalize is no matter how fucked up I am, no matter how bad my situation is, the person on the other line is getting a better deal than me. If I'm selling a $10,000 program, if they buy, I'll make a band. But what are they gonna get? They're gonna get X, Y, and Z problem solved that they've been dealing with for years. And so no matter what the situation, they are still getting the better end of the deal. And I internalize this very hard. This is why I'm able to say some of the craziest shit on sales calls. And I rarely ever get people running to the offer and saying, oh, Nick said this shit to me. I done told people that they need to step it the fuck up for their son, for their kids. I done told full grown men, what kind of example are you setting for your son right now if you cannot make a $6,000, $7,000 decision? What kind of example are you setting for them? I've said some of the craziest shit, but it's because I know I was doing it for them, right? And they could feel that I was doing it for them. And so if you could just have this embedded in you that I am doing this for you and not to you, the words will come. And another thing to understand with this is we're not turning no's into yeses. We're turning maybes into yeses. A no is a fucking no. If you ever hop on a sales call with me and you just straight up are like, yeah, I'm not doing this, the answer is no, I'm not gonna fucking fight you. Like, cool, best of luck. I'm not here to change no's into yeses with fancy mind fucking mental jujitsu tricks. Here to turn maybes into yeses. People who need what you sell. That's why I'm not a fan of the whole saying of like, oh, I could sell water to a fish. A fish doesn't fucking need to buy water. I could sell ice to an Eskimo. An Eskimo doesn't fucking need ice. So why are you selling this shit to them? Same concept here. Comes from the belief that sales is something you're doing to people, that you're manipulating them. You just come off like a fucking weirdo, okay? So now you know the core beliefs that you need to adapt as a closer and what almost every single closer gets wrong. If you're watching this, I'm willing to bet at least one of these 8 you are actively fucking up and doing wrong, and you haven't fully adapted. So now you know, you just watched me bark at a camera for, what is it, like 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. And don't just let this be one of those things that, you know, you feel good right now and it just collects dust and then you do nothing with it. Like, I am fucking 100% willing to bet we listened to the last call that you did not close. One of these 8 beliefs was at play and was not instilled. And I'm sure I could point it out. So don't let it collect dust, go implement this shit. And if you are actively selling on an offer, you know there's money being left on the table and you want to be congruent, you want to get out of your own way so you could speed the process up and actually make some motherfucking money, which is the whole reason you're doing this shit in the first place. Hit the link below. You're gonna have a call directly with me. I only take on an additional 5 students per month. That sounds like you. Apply below. As always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.